Coming to you from Music City, Nashville, Tennessee, this is the Quinn Spinn. Hey now, and welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, one and all, to a brand new edition of short one today. The Quinn Spinn. I'm your host, The Quinn, back here on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, and more for another rousing and riveting installment of the official podcast of Underground Music Collective. We are back here on the interview set, the new and improved interview set. You might notice some moving lights around us. We have movers now here at Helping Our Music Evolve, and I'm very excited to be here. And of course, Revel 9's All I've Become, our opening theme song, brought us in. That's been our opening theme song since the beginning of year 2 in 2014, and it will be until the very end of days. And I'm very excited to be joined again here on the interview set, this time one-on-one by Meg Rilley, who is a fantastic performer, recording artist here in town. Your voice is tremendous. I really enjoyed listening at the Music on the Move showcase in March at the Basement East, and you've got a lot more coming up too. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and a little different format, because the last time you were on the show, we were doing a roundtable discussion in preparation for that showcase. So there were 6 of us up here. So we had you, we had Aaron McClendon, Aaron O'Dowd, Noelle McFarland, and Tegan Stewart, all talking about what it means to be a woman in the music industry and why that type of opportunity is important. And of course, we could go there. We'll see where the day takes us today. But before we do that, I ask every guest of the show 3 standard questions, which you've answered not too long ago, but I'll give you another crack at them here. Those 3 are: who are you? What are your passions? And why on earth would you want to come on the Quinn Spinn?
Well, I'm Meg Rilley. I'm an artist here in Nashville for about 8 years now. I just did the math earlier and I was
Congratulations.
ready to lay down.
You're pretty much from here.
But I am super passionate, obviously, about my music and my songwriting. My performing, I really love performing more so than even the recording process and everything else. There's something about being on stage with my boys that is just lights my soul on fire, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. I'm passionate about my family. I love my family, both blood and chosen. And I'm passionate about working out. I love lifting. I love making sure that my heart and my body are all healthy and copacetic.
Gotta keep them all in order.
Gotta keep it all in line.
Yep, absolutely.
But, yeah.
And then, why on earth would you want to come back on the show?
Why wouldn't I?
One-on-one.
Yeah, we had such a good conversation last time, and it was so great that I knew with everything that's going on in my life lately, I really wanted to reach out to you and UMC in general, just because, again, I love the conversation we had, and I love the support you give to indie artists. It's incredible.
Appreciate that. And a lot of exciting things happening for you. And you mentioned the boys. So you front Meg and the boys here in town.
Yes, I do.
And I remember the boys were at that Music on the Move showcase, and they were your cheering section.
Yeah, they are definitely part of that chosen family. They are always loud and proud.
I remember at one point, like when you came onto the stage, like there was just like some hooting and hollering in the back, and Erin McClendon goes, because she was MCing as well, she's like, "Are those the boys back there?"
And they came sprinting out to the front. I'm sure you saw. They heard the boys be called, and they came running.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. It's great to have those type of people in your corner. You know, that support system. It's so important because we're all on this creative journey. You know, just building something from zero. You know, no matter how far we are, it all started from nothing. You know. And like, you need those people. You need those people to celebrate the wins and help you through the losses and everything in between. So that's
sure.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So let's go from the beginning. Let's get to know you a little better this time around, and as far back as you want to go. Your formative experiences, of course, musical influences, people, places, things that inspired you, that informed your creative path and really encouraged you to get on one.
Yeah. Well, I feel like every time I get the question of like, why music? Like, why did you choose music? As if anyone would choose this life. And I always say, like, I felt like I never had another option. Like, it was always music at the end of the day. Not that I never like had another option. I wasn't forced into this. Just that was me. That was what I was put here to do.
Right.
One way or another.
Yeah.
I always loved singing. I always loved performing. I joined like my church choir in, I think, 2nd grade. Shortly after, I started learning to play the guitar. I wrote my first song in like 5th grade and just kept going. It never really ended. So it started so early and then just continued. I chose my high school based on the best music program in the area.
Right.
In high school, I started visiting Nashville. I had one of those moments when I like kind of crossed over into the like Nashville greater area.
Yeah.
Where it was almost like the sky just got a little bigger, like everything looked bigger and
Yeah.
bluer and better. And I don't know how to describe it aside from it was like an actual visual change.
You just
for
kind of
me.
knew something about
Yeah,
this
like
place.
there was
Yeah.
something that was so special happening. Like I was home, I was there.
Yeah. I
Um,
had the exact same thing.
it was
Same thing.
wild.
Yeah.
I don't like the sky was just bigger. It reached further, and it was incredible. I remember I was sitting in the backseat of my mom's Jeep Wrangler, and we drove that little box all the way down to Nashville. And I just like it was her and my dad because I was a child at the time. And I just like had my head through both of them, like leaning into the front seat, just like staring at everything.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to come here. That first visit, I think it was like a week and a half long, and I was going to every open mic that would let me in.
Yeah.
And I just loved it. And I immediately met people who like welcomed me into their lives and welcomed me into helping. And I felt part of something that I was supposed to be a part of.
Yeah.
So it was always Nashville. It was always music.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I graduated high school, and I went to Belmont, like a lot of people in town.
Right.
And I never left.
Yeah. You know, and that's the thing is so much of what you're saying about your first like encounter with Nashville and just like seeing that skyline, seeing it for the first time, like that resonates with me because I had the same type of experience where you just pull up on that, you come over the hill on 40 and you just see it for the first time and it's like, let's go. Like there's just a sense of like, I'm gonna move here. Like I don't know when, I don't know how, but I'm gonna move here. For me, like I drove down here for the first time and then 2 weeks later I lived here. Like
gosh.
it was one of those things. It was later in life, you know, I was 31 at that point. But like another thing you said there though about, you know, who would choose this life. And I think like that's a very valuable nugget there because like this is hard. This is hard. Like, of course, you know, you see people after they've made it on TV, hear them on the radio, that kind of thing. And again, making it being an abstract concept, as we talk about here on the show all the time, because like there's always that next mountain to climb. But what you don't see until you actually dig into somebody's story is like what it took to get there, the challenges they faced, they've had to overcome, like all the trials that like could have caused you to fold, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And all the like, and those never go away. You just get better at dealing with them, you know? I find like there's always going to be a challenge. There's always going to be something that it's like, ooh, okay, like I need to rise to this occasion. Yeah. What are some of the challenges you would say you've encountered along your journey that have been formative for you?
I feel like the biggest one has actually been a relatively recent change and development in just the music industry as a whole. I think the digital age has made music so accessible to so many people, which is incredible. So many people are capable of expressing themselves through music and making it attainable for other people more so than ever before, which is incredible and not a bad thing.
Yeah.
With the digital age came the advent of, if you are going to be a musician, you are going to be equal parts content creator. Yeah. And I have found that very difficult because I've never wanted to be a content creator.
Right.
I have wanted to be a music creator. So I struggle with that, especially I know that it is what it is and everyone has their thoughts on it. But with the rise of TikTok being such a cornerstone of the music industry at this point, it's so difficult. I don't have the time and energy to expend hours a week on creating enough content to stay in the algorithm and stay relevant. So it's draining between coming up with content to create for TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, engage with everybody on those platforms that are engaging with you. Yeah. And write music, promote that music, perform that music, make money doing music. There's just, it's such a, I'm sure there are many people that are much better at it than I am because I have struggled with that for the last few years of, you know, when TikTok first happened, a few people went viral and all of us were like, but it's going to go away. Just like everything else. It's going to go away. It's not one of the permanent ones. And it seems like it is now.
It has stuck around a few years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been here for a little while now. And because I was unfortunately of the wrong opinion that this is going to go away relatively quickly. Right. I almost missed the bell curve. So now I'm trying to jump into it after the fact. Yeah. So I would say content creation has been a big hurdle for me. That being said, like my day job is doing content creation.
Yeah.
So like I know how to do it. I just find it very difficult to apply to myself.
Right.
I don't know why. It just feels like a totally different ball game when I'm trying to do it for me.
I think that's understandable because, like, as somebody else who has struggled to adopt TikTok, like, personally, I will say this on the record, I have no interest in the platform. I don't like it. Like, I don't like
fair.
TikTok. I understand why you should dive into it as an artist, as a creative.
Oh yeah, if I didn't have to,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. But you kind of have to.
Yeah, you have to. And so it's all about understanding, like, okay, how do you make it work for you? And I think that goes across the board with any other platform, like finding the ones that work for you, finding the ones where your audience is, and finding a way, like, even if it's not the part of the job you enjoy, to either get enjoyment out of it or outsource it to somebody else to actually do the management of it. I mean, there's so much about the content though itself that has to be like front and center. I'm the face of this thing. So you're always going to have to, I think, as like an artist or creative at this point, like have a hand in creating the content. Sure. But like the management part of it is where, like, eventually, as you build your team, you can give that part to someone else. So you can focus on the songwriting, you can focus on the performing, like the things that you actually got in the music to do.
Yeah.
And I think too, like, TikTok's not the right platform for everybody, and I know that's like a very like blasphemous thing to say right now in this ecosystem, but like, what if more of your audience is on Instagram? What if your strength is on YouTube and building that audience, even Facebook, not so much for our generation, but maybe for the older ones, like, they might have a lot more of their followings there than will ever go on TikTok to find them, you know? So it's just a matter of finding what works for you, but also like making it manageable and making it enjoyable. I mean, I'm not the type of person to learn all these dances and point to words and all that, but it's like, what kind of content can I develop that people, that'll resonate with the audience? And I think knowing who that audience is too, like, is a huge help, identifying your people and what they care about.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So as far as being here in Nashville now, so you and the boys, Meg and the boys, you do the whole Broadway circuit, performing covers, getting out on the scene, but you also have your own artist project as well.
Yes.
Speaking of balance, that can be a tough thing to keep in balance. So what have you encountered there as far as trying to manage like these gigs, downtown on Broadway, the ones that, pay the bills, and balancing that with your artist career, making sure the songs are getting written, recorded, performed, and getting out there enough to folks?
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard. But I've been lucky enough to kind of get to know and be a part of the circuits that are a little bit smaller. So downtown, there's a few different circuits, and I have been lucky enough to get into some venues that are pretty small in terms of how many, different venues one person is trying to balance booking for, which is great because a lot of them have actually moved to like these apps that the like scheduling apps. God, I sound like I don't know anything about the internet. I do.
These apps on these
newfangled apps.
Face tweets. Tic Tacs.
But they use these scheduling apps that I can just go in and let them know when I've got original music stuff going on and I can't play tonight.
Yeah.
Which is really convenient because we do that a month in advance and then we have the rest of the schedule.
Right.
And I'm very fortunate to like be pals with some of these booking people, so like they know that I'm gonna bring a good show. Me and the boys are gonna bring a good show.
Yeah.
So like hopefully they want to continue booking us, and that's just
And as you build those relationships too, it does give you an audience, I think, for your original music, being down there, of course, downtown Broadway, surrounding areas, it's a lot of tourism, but what that does is it exposes you to an entire new market. And if,
for sure,
if they like hearing their favorites out of you and the band, then they can come on in and, explore, your artistry as well, and one band back in Pennsylvania, good friends of mine, Billy Bauer Band, which Billy and Sarah just had a baby. Congratulations. They do a Dave Matthews tribute in the area, and like that brings people out.
I believe it.
Selling out like, pretty decent club sized venues up there in Eastern PA. And what that does as a direct byproduct of that is it brings people into the original music. And so like, regardless of whether it's a tribute show or they're playing their own stuff, now like there's that audience, there's that following. And that's the benefit that I think, like, if you can see the forest for the trees long enough, of course, being in that circuit downtown, like it can, you got to stay in it. You got to stay
Yeah.
on top of it, play multiple nights a week. And like, it can be tough to take a step back and see like, okay, how is this like fitting into the greater scheme of my career? But what it does is it opens you up to those new audiences you wouldn't have reached with your original music alone, and gives them the chance to engage with it. Whether they do, it's up to them, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And not everyone will. Some people just come here to hear the hits and go home and talk about the great time they had in Nashville. But there are always those people here in Nashville, who come to Nashville from anywhere seeking out the music and who want to know who's making it, who's making original music, who's making the good stuff, whatever they determine to be good. And they want to engage. They want to learn something while they're here. There are a lot of people like that, so it's just a matter of finding that audience. And, you have a great platform to do that, of course, being downtown.
Yeah, for sure. I've also always said that, like, us playing downtown, first of all, I want to make sure that my boys make as much money as they can, as I can provide for them. And secondly, I've heard a few like original music artists kind of like talk down about like cover gigs, which I understand. I get that they're monotonous and it's not what you're like the most passionate about. But I've always kind of seen it as, if I can fund my passion with what I love doing, I don't know why I wouldn't. Like, who wouldn't?
Yeah.
So I also try to see it as like a positive, in the sense of like, yeah, my job also is doing music, which is really cool.
Yeah. And it does stretch you creatively, especially down on
Yeah.
Broadway, when somebody tips you $100 and you have to learn a song on the spot.
Oh yeah.
You got to figure out how to do that.
Oh yeah.
You just got paid to give that person a product, so it does stretch you creatively, and you're able to take that and apply it, translate it to what you do in the original sense,
Absolutely. And it makes me and the boys tighter. Like, after you've played multiple times a week downtown for 4 hours and needing to have each other's backs and follow each other, you're going to get tighter at even the original stuff. Like, that's a breeze now. Doing a half-hour set of originals, no problem. Any day.
Yeah, I mean, that situation's also a microcosm for, this idea that like challenge leads to growth, If you were just going to play all the same songs that you knew all the time, like, that doesn't really challenge you or stretch you. But when it's like, Taylor Swift is a hot topic right now. So it's like, play Shake It Off, and you don't know Shake It Off. Well, you're going to learn Shake It Off today.
You're about to.
But then the next time you're going to maybe even enjoy that process, and you add it to your set, and it just adds this other layer of creativity and artistry of just having to improvise that on the fly and figure it out. Pull up the tabs, pull up the lyrics, let it rip.
And just... let's go.
But switching to the original music, so you have a single coming out tomorrow as of episode release date, which is very exciting.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about it.
So that is coming out tomorrow, May 19th. It's called Below Average. And it's actually the first single of mine that's also going to be featuring Meg and the boys as one entity, which is very neat. So all the boys are playing their respective instruments. Yes, it was absolutely just like a passion project. We don't have much money. So it was very much a friend of mine has a space to record drums. So we went to Mike's house to record the drums with Marcus. And then we took that and we brought it back to my house, where our spare room is kind of set up kind of like a makeshift recording space. Recorded the bass, recorded the guitar, recorded the vocals in my closet. And the guitarist, Leighton Thomas, was also the mixing engineer, sent it to my other friend, Grady James, who is a fantastic engineer who mastered it. It was very much like a little tribal moment of community of us all kind of putting in for this. And I think it came out so great. I'm so excited. It's fun. It's tongue-in-cheek. It's exciting. It's a good song to turn up loud when you're driving in your car.
And a fun, spirited DIY effort.
Oh, yeah.
So thematically, what can we expect as listeners?
So I was joking about this last night at a show. It was a night of all female artists, female fronted bands, and each one got up, and at some point they were like, and this is my song about toxic men. Every woman has their one. And then I got up there and I was like, great news, I've got a whole catalog. So it's very on brand. So Below Average is about kind of like this character. Let's go with
this archetype.
Yeah.
This hypothetical archetype. Nobody in particular.
It's not about anyone. Of just a man who has treated you poorly, cheated on you, tried to get away with it, is only sorry when he's caught. and just overall being like, and you know what? I don't care because you're below average anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of trying to be like, I'm just going to brush you off
Mm-hmm.
because you don't mean that much to me anyway. Like, I'm not going to, the hook is I won't be taking advantage of a man that I describe as below average.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's funny. It's meant to be kind of tongue in cheek. And yeah, so thematically,
If you've ever had that experience,
if you relate.
So make sure you check it out, Below Average. Coming to your streaming platforms tomorrow as of episode release date. May 19th is the date, in case you watch this or listen after the fact. And you mentioned the all-female songwriters night that was just as of recording just last night over at the Bowery Vault, right?
Yeah.
I always get that mixed up with the Bowery Electric in New York.
Fair.
Because they're both Boweries. But Bowery Vault here in Nashville, awesome little place, by the way.
Yeah.
Good place to catch some like just original tunes, do a little bit of shopping. Is there still that little cafe in there too?
So they like have the bar. They also serve coffee and like some random food pieces, and they have like a few racks of the vintage clothes. It's a really cool venue.
Yeah. So you were saying you do this pretty regularly with Gwen Levy here in town.
Yeah.
So take us through the process of putting these writers' nights together, and similar, I guess, to, when we did that whole thing on the Music on the Move showcase, empowering women, empowering these female artists to have the spotlight and have an avenue for their original music. So.
Yeah. We started doing these back in like the fall or winter of this past year. And we do them every couple of months. So the next one's on like July 1st, I believe. And it's always all female fronted bands. And yeah, we just knew that we wanted to give a platform to women, an opportunity for all of us to support each other and lift each other up and celebrate our music. It's always so much fun, and everyone is in just such a great headspace, and we are all so supportive of each other. And it's just a wonderful environment. Like the Bowery Vault is such an intimate, like a nicely intimate venue.
Yeah.
That you really connect with your audience. So it's a really great opportunity for everyone to just really focus on practicing performing. And I think that's fantastic. And I've always talked about how it seems so like normal. I think I mentioned this on our panel, actually, that it's so normal for it to be like an all male fronted evening. Like that's not even a thought. Like then it's just a band night. But when it's all women, it's, oh my goodness, this is an all female front. Like it's a selling point.
Right.
Which I think is funny because I think people see it as like there's a shortage of female artists, like they can't find them to put on bills. And we've been doing it successfully with 6 bands a night.
They're all over the place
for a while. Like there's a lot of them, I promise. And they are all very talented.
Yeah. Same. We've had plenty of just like exclusively female pop nights on the Nash Live end,
Yeah.
And like the pop scene alone, like is just teeming with female artists.
Absolutely.
And then like you get into rock, you get into country. Country's its own thing. Like they're everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Hip hop, R&B, soul, like it's nothing new for, female artists to be making original music. And yet it is treated as like almost like a commodity, It's treated as something that's not normalized. And how can we normalize that, I guess? Not to put you on the spot, but like
I don't know. Aside from, again, just like book your female friends. Like book female artists.
Yeah.
I know that's so much easier to say than to like do, especially when I understand the idea of community and like doing well by your pals, by your friends, and wanting to book them first and foremost. But I would absolutely challenge you to, like, if you're booking 5 bands for a night, sure, maybe 4 of them you want to be your buddies, but let's leave one spot to just like go out and seek out a female artist.
Right.
And you won't have to look that hard, I promise.
Yeah. And I think that's just good advice in general. Like if you want to build your community, go outside of your circle.
Oh yeah.
Because like the one thing that I see people do, which I think is a mistake, is just like booking all their same friends to play the same venues on the, or the same time of year, same time of day, like just booking the same show over and over and over again. And all that's going to do is it's just going to create this echo chamber. Yeah. This merry-go-round, and none of you are really going to grow from it because you have the same audiences, you have the same friends coming out. And you repeat that over and over and over again, you're going to have those diminishing returns because people know they can catch it any time.
Yeah.
Go outside of your circle, find something new, pull somebody new in. If there's somebody you've been like admiring their work from afar, like reach out.
Yeah.
Like, don't be afraid to shoot your shot in that respect. And like, hey, we're playing this show. I think you'd be a great fit. We'd love to work with you. Boom. There you go. You've made new friends.
Yeah.
You've all gained a following that you didn't have before. And the community has grown stronger,
Absolutely.
more inclusive, and everything's a little more normal.
You're going to make more friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Because like, that's the thing too, is like, we're all, again, we all started from zero, and like, it's a tough industry, and you need those people, and you need your community to be strong around you. The rising tide raises all boats. We say it all the time here on the show. So if you're playing the Quinn Spinn drinking game, take a drink. But like, you need to build strength in numbers around what you're doing, because that's what's going to get the attention of the traditional industry in the first place, if that's the avenue that you wish to explore. But even if you want to remain independent forever, you're going to need that community, that network of people, the network of fans to make that viable for you.
Yeah.
So it doesn't do you any good to stay in the same circles, doing the same things over and over and over again. It might be comfortable, but building what you want to build is not comfortable.
Yeah.
And so that's a great segue to this next question. Giving myself credit for the segues again. If there's one lesson that you've learned over the course of your career so far that you would impart to a younger version of yourself, or, maybe somebody just starting out looking for advice, what would that be?
Don't be afraid of it changing.
Mm.
And I mean that in a sense of like, I will tell you, I am a very different person than the 18-year-old that moved here. I love the sound that I have found, because I wasn't always a rock artist.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of me always was, but I hadn't discovered that was my true genre yet.
Right.
I've become, I believe, hopefully, God willing, a better songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's changed.
Mm-hmm.
My process has changed. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And my look has changed. And just don't be afraid of it changing, because it's going to change. Like, whether you want it to or not, it's going to. What you're writing at 18, at 15, at 10 is not going to be the topics, the style, the way that you're writing at 26, at 30. Like, it's just going to change.
Right.
And that's good. That's what happens. That's part of growing up. But as a musician, it's going to change, and you have to be willing to embrace that.
Mm-hmm.
Like my stage presence in and of itself, anyone from my hometown will tell you that when I started performing out live, I did not want to speak to an audience to save my life. I would finish a song and go, yeah, and then start the next one. Like, that was the most interaction with the audience I would give. And through just years of doing this, I think it got a little turbocharged when I brought the boys on with me, because they are very high energy.
Yeah.
My performance and my ability to interact with an audience has become so much better. So yeah, I guess just don't be afraid of it changing. It's okay if it changes. You might end up liking it so much more. And if you don't, you can always go back. But you might like it so much more.
Yeah. And your artistry, your creativity is only one thing that could change, because the journey to get more existential too is like, it's going to require you to change. It's going to require you to be a different version of yourself, really, probably every couple of years, if not more frequently. All the time. Like, you're constantly evolving as a person, because, and I can tell you this, having taken the leap at the beginning of 2021, like, to doing this full time, like, I had the cushy corporate job. I was getting a check every 2 weeks to do the bare minimum, that kind of thing. I took the leap at the beginning of 2021. And that's when I feel like the journey really started. And it will teach you everything you need to know about yourself, not just professionally, but personally. It's going to teach you everything you need to know, in terms of the holes in your game, and the ways that you show up that need adjustment in order to get to the level you want to get to. And that is perhaps the scariest change of all, right? The change that we have to undergo as a person, but it's the most rewarding.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I've always, I feel like as creatives, there's a lot of feeling sad, which is fair. I totally get it. I'm sad all the time. But there comes, I think, a point at some point where you decide that being happy is more important.
Yeah.
And you understand that's going to take some internal work. But that journey, the journey of, I was describing this to someone where, like, when you like open a closet and your closet's a mess and you have to clean it. And that's awful. You don't want to clean your closet. this was actually an analogy my good friend from college told me. Shout out to Julia. But you take everything out of the closet and suddenly your whole room is a mess.
Yep.
So like it's gonna get messier in
Yeah.
order for you to put everything back.
I love it.
And in order for it to find order and be what you want it to be and find peace in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, take everything out of the closet, make a bigger mess. It's okay. It's
You
gonna
have
get
to.
cleaned up because if you don't, it's just gonna stay a mess. And you're just gonna keep shoving stuff in there.
Yeah. And it's just going to get overflowed to the point where it explodes. Like,
Yeah,
literally,
absolutely.
the
And
door
then the
comes
room
off the
and the
hinges.
closet, and there's no fixing it.
Yeah. Like, and I love that analogy because you have to be willing to get messy and do the work. And the longer you put it off, the more of a powder keg, pressure cooker type of situation you're going to be under. And I think a lot of us during the pandemic, like, had the chance to face that, right? Where it's hey, we're all stuck in our houses for months, or maybe if you didn't,
I'll think about myself.
Yeah, maybe I'll think about my life. I know I did, and that was really a tip of the iceberg moment for me, where like, you know, it wasn't that uncomfortable until maybe like a year into the pandemic when like I started looking around at the mess. You know, it's like, ooh, this needs to be fixed. This needs to change. This needs to change. Like, but you know, just having that tip of the iceberg moment, like that's just the beginning. And like, that's the thing. You can't look at the tip of the iceberg and be like, I figured it out. I'm good. I'm good. Let's move forward. Because I've made that mistake before too. When I moved to Nashville and immediately got this cushy corporate job, I'm like, all right, good. I have money. All my problems are solved forever, happily ever after. There's no such thing. There's always that work you're going to have to do. And it's the uncomfortable stuff that needs the most doing.
Yeah. And it's always like there's such a difference between just acknowledging and actually fix it. Like you can be self-aware till the cows come home, but if you're not actually like, I can sit here and look at the camera and say, I'm a very anxious person. That doesn't fix the fact that I'm anxious. And I feel like for a lot of people, that's kind of where that journey ends, is acknowledging that there's a problem. Right. And being like, but that's how I deal with it. This is how I deal with it. So I'm moving along. Yeah. But like, wouldn't it be so much more rewarding if that went away? If you actually like dealt with it? Yeah. Again, it's the tip of the iceberg, but it's like, okay, what wiring leads me to be anxious? What wiring leads me to this state of emotional distress? What wiring leads me to react or respond to certain situations in the way I do? Yeah. And how can I then become aware of that? And more importantly, not just be aware of it, but catch it. Yeah. Catch myself in the act, you know? Yeah. Because that's the important thing. And like, none of us are perfect. You know, we all fall short, you know, but it's a matter of being able to catch it earlier. Know the signs in yourself, know the signs in other people as you've experienced other people. And, you know, maybe things have or haven't worked out with them. Like, okay, like that was a red flag that I blatantly ignored. Yeah. I won't ignore that red flag the next time. Yeah. Seeing the red flags in yourself and be like, ooh, I should fix that if I ever want to get past this certain point in my career or my relationships or whatever. Yeah. Like taking that personal accountability to recognize the signs in ourselves and everything around us that are contributing to our current state. Yeah, for sure. Ultimately, we're responsible for that, right? Yeah. And like, it's always worth just being a little happier in life, being a little lighter. Mm-hmm. Like maybe it doesn't look like you're going to get there when you first start dealing with it. Again, you're going to make it messier before it's cleaner. Yeah. But like, again, I just feel like it's always worth it. Like, yeah. I love my life. Yeah. Yeah. Same. Yeah. Like I can tell you like over the past year, like I've gotten to a point where it's like, this is stressful as anything, you know, because it requires to constantly level up. Like that never goes away. The stress, the fear, the discomfort, dread. Yeah, like never goes away. It's like, you know, we're as we're building, you know, as emerging artists, as independent creatives, like there's always, you know, there are always those setbacks that happen, but you learn how to deal with them better. Yeah, you know, but like getting to wake up and do this every day, like I love it. You know, and I can love it even more because of the discomfort of, you know, what kind of came to light for me in the pandemic and continued to come to light even further, you know, as it continued, like, and sitting with it, looking at it, examining it, addressing it. That's helped enrich the platform. It's helped enrich my life. Yeah. And I'm sure you've experienced, you know, similar things over the past few years. Yeah. As you like change your outlook, it's also just, it changes your outlook on everything. Yeah. Like it makes the hard things a little bit less hard. Like we played that show yesterday. It was a great show. I had so much fun. Me and the boys had a great time. We cleaned up. We were leaving. I walked over to my car and somebody had hit my side view mirror right off, clean off. And I was like, oh, I don't need this. I don't have the money to pay for it. It was probably somebody drunk leaving one of these bars, like tailing it down this alley. But then I just shook it off. I was like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like something like that a few years ago might have ruined my week.
Right.
But it's about not letting stuff like that ruin your week. Like I had a great show. I'm not going to let this inconvenience ruin that.
Yeah. And I think as you go, you do know how to deal with things better. You know, the more you've dealt with, you know, certain stuff, you know, just life stuff that happens. And this journey teaches you not to get too high or too low.
Yeah.
You know, and just like, okay, next thing up. You kind of, it teaches you to have a short memory insofar as like, all right, well, let's take the good with the bad here.
Yeah.
We had a great show. Yeah, my mirror got knocked off. I'll fix that. But like, look at the momentum that's happening overall in my career, in my life. You know, like there are always going to be things that don't go your way.
Yeah.
In life, on the creative journey, and, you know, in any ways that those things intertwine. But the point is to make sure that you're always taking it in stride and to make sure that you're just keeping aware of your general progress overall. As long as that's trending upwards, you're doing all right. You know, as long as you feel like a general sense of positive momentum and positive movement, then, you know, all the little stuff, you know, that it's temporary. It'll go away.
In 2 years, I won't even think about my side mirror.
Yeah. You'll have a new mirror. You'll have a big luxury car, you know, touring the world, all that stuff.
Me and my big Range Rover aren't going to be thinking about it.
You're going to be the one barreling down the road knocking over mailboxes because you can. No, just kidding.
Don't do that.
No, just kidding. We don't encourage that here at the Quinn Spinn. So, the future. What does it hold? What can we expect the rest of the year?
Well, again, Below Average is coming out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then this year, putting out 2 more singles that will be coming later. And yeah, I'm not sure. We're already booking a lot of performances for the rest of the year. So we're focusing on live performing right now. Hopefully we'll do like a little East Coast tour next calendar year with the full band, which would be incredible. But yeah, we're just going to keep chugging along, keep doing what we're doing, and hopefully continue this trend upward.
That's the goal. Keep moving forward at all times. Well, this has been fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show again.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
We'll do it again at some point, I'm sure. Before we sign off, where can we learn more about you?
So my name is Meg Rilley. It's spelled a little funny. It's Rilley. So it looks like really, but I promise it's Riley. So I'm on all the social medias, just at Meg Rilley. I have a website, megriley.com. And then you can also find Meg and the Boys on Instagram and Twitter now, newly added addition.
Congratulations.
So that's just at Meg the Boys on Instagram and Twitter. So that's pretty much where you can find everything and anything you could possibly want to know about me.
All right. And this has been the Quinn Spinn, 2 N's in Quinn, 2 N's in Spin. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, YouTube, and more. Also, learn more about us on Instagram at Quinn Spinn Official and at undergroundmusiccollective.com, our central hub for all things independent music, creativity, community, and more. UMC's on all the socials as well: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, of course, where you might be watching this episode. Follow the UMC 20 playlist on Spotify. Pretty sure we'll have Below Average on there pretty soon. Just keep an eye out for that. Comes out every Tuesday, 20 fresh tracks. And the latest episode or episodes of this podcast, been one a week for the past month or so, though, because things have been nutty, including in Nash Live Land. We have a show coming up at Cobra on June 9th. Details, if they're not out already, will be very soon. That's why I'm not telling you the lineup, because I don't know if we've announced it yet this week, but the plan is to announce it this week. Revel 9's All I Become. I'm going to take us out, just like it brought us in. Grab some muffins on the way out.